Hello? Do you know that trade union activities affect you as a worker, whether you like it or not? Trade union activities affect the nature of agreement that you have with your employer. It is called the contract of agreement. Are you aware that trade union activities affect your remuneration? It affects the pay package that you receive as a worker. It also affects your job security. The presence or absence of a trade union could make you lose your job or help you retain your job. A trade union can also facilitate your participation in in-service training that will help improve your skill. Its absence can also affect this. A trade union affects your minimum wage negotiation. It affects the way that your employer treats you, the respect that he accords to you, or the non-existence of such respect. A trade union can affect the compensation that you receive or do not receive from your employer in the event of an industrial accident. One of my videos on YouTube discusses injuries that workers face or risk at work and how the employers can compensate or not compensate the worker depending on the situation. Hello? My name is Ogochukwu, the Human Rights Wizard, and this is a quarter hour with the Human Rights Wizard. On this channel, we discuss laws, especially as they affect the rights of workers, the rights of children, the rights of mothers, and working women in general, and the rights of the citizen in every facet of human life. Let us ask the big question. What is a trade union? It is a union of workers in a given sector of the economy. A union formed to protect the interests of workers as they labor to help improve the economic lot of their employer and their own economic lot. Nigeria's National Assembly passed the Trade Union Act, which is an act of that assembly that empowers workers to unionize in the workplace so as to protect their interests. Should you belong in a trade union? Yes. Should you not belong in a trade union? Yes again. But remember, while the law confers on you the right to decide whether to belong or not to belong, read Nigeria's Constitution, Section 40. It is on the right to freedom of association. So you are free to associate or not. But remember that if you fail to be a member of a trade union that protects the interests of workers in your own sector of the economy, if you run into a problem with your employer, the trade union will not be there to protect you. The law permits the employer, so long as the workers have in writing told the employer or empowered the employer to deduct a percentage of their monthly salary as payment to the trade union fund to help contribute to the activities of the trade union, then the employer is empowered to do so. Without such an authorization, no employer has the right to deduct any money from the salary of a worker. Now, what is the downside of trade union activities in Nigeria? Let us start from the scratch. And our searchlight is beamed directly on the private sector of the economy. Work in the public sector is not so rosy, but at least it enjoys some advantages over work in the private sector. Many Nigerian job seekers simply jump onto the job once the opportunity is there. They do not ask questions. They do not sign a contract of employment. They do not talk about the trade union because some of them are not even aware of such a union. And what is the result? The employer simply treats them in ways that he or she deems necessary. Watch my YouTube video on Employees Compensation Act and on the rights of workers and similar topics. Log on to HumanRightsHeralds on YouTube to watch these videos. Now, a Nigerian worker in the private sector simply takes the job because he doesn't want to lose it and then faces the consequences. Some employers are known to discriminate against their workers on the basis of gender, of ethnicity or tribe, of religion, of disability. This happens because there is no trade union that can protect the interests of such workers. And in many work environments in the private sector, the employer frowns at any attempt by the workers to form a trade union. Because, of course, the absence of such a union empowers him to treat the workers as slaves. But what does the law say? It is not acceptable for anybody to prevent a worker from joining the trade union, either on the basis of origin, ethnicity, tribe, disability, gender, or some other grounds for such a discrimination. Read Section 42 of the Constitution of the Federation of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. It is on freedom from discrimination. Now, there are some qualified laborers who are not hired because they suffer some disability. And the employer refuses to offer a job to such an applicant. And this happens because there is no trade union to protect the interests of such a laborer in that establishment or sector of the economy. Some workers are denied in-service training. Some workers are denied promotion. Many employers refuse to pay the approved or statutory contributory pension scheme, usually because there is no trade union in such an establishment that can protect the interests of workers. And the rights of working mothers are denied to them because such mothers work in establishments where there is no trade union. And sick leave or allowances paid to workers who suffer injury while at work or who die at work, their families receive nothing because there is no trade union to fight for the interests of such workers. So you can see that the trade union is very, very important. It's of utmost importance that before a worker accepts a job in a particular establishment, there has to be a negotiation. And the negotiation is better if there is a trade union in the establishment. And the trade union heads the negotiation, ensuring that workers receive the best treatment they deserve from the employee. Are there organizations that are barred from forming trade unions by the law? Yes. The military, the police, and all paramilitary organizations are barred from forming trade unions. But they can form joint consultative assemblies where they can discuss matters of interest to them and project their interest to the government and hope to get solutions for their needs. So trade unions are very important. Now, what is responsible for their non-existence in many private sector establishments? One, attitude. The attitude of the workers themselves. Many workers in the private sector see their jobs in that sector as a transition period in their work life. They see it as a job to be done for the moment, an ad hoc job, something to hold on while they look for a more permanent and gainful employment elsewhere. And you know what happens? 5 years slips away. They are still searching. 5 years is followed by 10, and 10 gives way to 15. And 15 collapses into 20. And a private sector worker is almost heading towards retirement. And he has no entitlement. He's not entitled to an annual leave or leave allowance. The working mothers are not entitled to maternity leave and allowances. And they have no prospect of earning monthly pensions when they retire, and no provision for retirement gratuity. Second, many employers frown at the activities of trade unions, and many try to prevent its formation among its workers. Some workers who advocate it are singled out as ringleaders and punished either by denying them promotion, denying them in-service training. Sometimes some employers are known to have secretly poisoned such workers so that they die and not stay there to form trade unions that will promote the welfare of workers. And in many cases, some employers employ what is described as divide and rule. They try to keep the workers divided so that they will never unite by praising some workers openly and giving them benefits that they deny other workers. And these are usually workers that gossip about their fellow workers, that report activities among their fellow workers, activities that are meant to protect the interests of the staff. They report to the employer or the boss, who now praises them publicly and then punishes those workers who try to unionize. And by doing so, they create enmity among the staff, making sure that they do not unite, because once they have planted this seed of enmity, the workers are not able to work in unity, and if they cannot work in unity as a team, the prospect of a trade union developing among them becomes remote. Now, what is the third factor, apart from attitude of workers, and the activities of employers that discourage trade union. The third one is ignorance. Many workers in the private sector really do not understand what a trade union is and that they should have such a union. The Bible says that my people are dying for lack of knowledge. So lack of knowledge or lack of information is a third factor, which makes it impossible for workers in the private sector to unionize. Many such workers don't really understand what role a trade union can play in their work life if one exists, and others have never heard about trade unions and do not know that they should form such a union. So ignorance, therefore, is a factor. Fourthly, and a follow-up to this, there is a union of private sector employers in Nigeria. A union of private sector employers, and what do they discuss during their meetings? Most of their discussions are centered on how to control their workers and make sure that the workers do not grow financially. Because if the workers grow, they will leave the job and establish themselves somewhere. However, most of the employers desire to have their staff permanently as slave laborers. The employers themselves, most of them, behave like the slave masters of the past, and their workers are simply slaves. Slaves who are paid what I describe as a survival stipend, but not a salary. An amount of money you are paid at the end of the month, and you spend it within 2 or 3 days into the new month, and then you go broke again and continue to toil while you hope that another month will soon end for you to receive the same stipend. And each time the employer notices that you've changed your clothes, he gets angry. He thinks you are getting rich, and he tries to do something to bring you down. I am sure that if you are a worker in the private sector in Nigeria, you understand that I am not exaggerating. This is what happens day in, day out in such establishments. On this channel, our duty is to educate you on your rights and how to go about claiming such rights. For it is known that knowledge is power, and its absence is ignorance. Ignorance produces weakness in people and institutions. So that is our discussion today on trade unions. Now you understand the importance of trade unions, and that where it exists, workers join voluntarily. They are not forced. And with such voluntary membership of trade unions, the workers request in writing that a percentage of their salary be deducted each month as their contribution, as levies they contribute, dues rather they contribute to the activities of the trade union. Without such written information, the employer has no right to deduct any amount from the salary of a worker, except on situations where the worker has violated some of the clauses on the contract of employment he signed or she signed with the employer upon being employed. And when this is the case, the deduction that is made to the benefit of the employer must be approved by the official representing the trade union in that establishment. However, the non-existence of a trade union is the reason why I have experienced it in an establishment where the employer deducted took half of the salary of a worker simply because the worker failed to attend a staff meeting that didn't last for more than 1 hour. And the same employer dismissed a staff at a meeting, summoned the meeting for no other reason but to tell the workers that the staff has been dismissed. In fact, he dismissed the worker right there without the worker having any prior knowledge that he was to be dismissed. The employer summoned the meeting and announced at the meeting that this worker is hereby dismissed. The same worker dismissed another staff for simply complaining that the employer and his management staff spoke insolently to the workers. The employer organized the meeting and dismissed the staff before the entire staff. So this kind of treatment will come to an end if workers unionize. Because they unionize, they could say no to some of the maltreatments that employers sometimes mete out to workers. Like denying somebody in-service training just to spite him for always defending the interests of workers. Like slapping a worker while on duty. Yes, some employers have such temerity to slap a worker. Like sexually harassing a staff and then denying him or her of his or her entitlements because he or she has refused to succumb to the sexual overtures of the employer. And so many other kinds of ill treatment that workers receive, all of which occur because of the absence of a trade union. If you have learned something from our video today, then compensate us for this by helping us spread this video. Like this video and share it so that it can get to others who are not as opportune as you are to watch it firsthand. Then subscribe to this channel, as doing so will encourage us to do more and provide you with more enlightening videos like the ones we've had today. Remember our slogan: know your rights, protect your rights, and defend your rights. As you do so, you will be encouraging others to respect your rights just as you respect theirs, and we will gradually have an orderly and harmonious society. I invite you to join me on our next video. Remember that I remain your humble anchor, Ogochukwu Ono.